we're going to be working with difficult thoughts this week. We've worked with breathing, with our bodies, with pain in the bodies. We have worked with emotions and also how to cultivate more positive emotions. And today we're going to be working directly with the mind and with difficult thoughts. So the first exercise that we're going to do right now is, please stop everything that you're doing right now and don't think about anything. Stop thinking. I hope you're not thinking. So if you can put it in the chat box, was it possible? Were you able to stop thinking? You can put down in the chat box, yes or no. No, difficult, no, no, not really, no. There you go. I filled my head with noise, no. Oh, clusters ahead of us there. Alex says, drop everything. Yes, not think, no. Good. Right, so if you can share with me, what were the thoughts? Were you able to catch any of the thoughts that you were trying to stop from happening? So could you share that with me? What were some of the thoughts, if any, that you could catch? Did you notice? The mind is nonstop thinking. There's nothing. So if the more that we try to stop and empty our minds, the more the thoughts come. So James Allen says, a man is literally what he thinks, his character being the sum of all his thoughts. So imagine if all of the thoughts in your mind is what builds the person that you are. What kind of thoughts do you have and what kind of person are you? So what are thoughts? Thoughts are objects of the mind or mental cognitions. There are ideas, opinions, and beliefs about ourselves and the world around us. They include perspectives that we bring into any situation or experience, and they color our point of view. So for better or worse or neutral, everything that we perceive, as we had learned previously, is what also influences the thoughts that we think. So the thoughts come from our brain, and our human brain is composed of about 100 billion nerve cells or neurons, and they're interconnected. And these interconnections, or when they fire together, they're called the synapses. So on average, the connection transmits about 1 signal per second. And these signals are the thoughts that are arising in this process. So that means that we think about on average 70,000 thoughts per day, nearly 3,000 thoughts per hour, and 48 thoughts per minute, which is right about almost 1 thought per second. With all of these thoughts that are going on in our minds throughout the day, how many of these thoughts are you able to notice out of the 70,000? Can you imagine? A lot of the thoughts also that we might notice more than not are the negative, biased thoughts, because we are not quite that evolved. We're still functioning from the limbic brain, which is always looking for a threat. Thousands and thousands of years ago, human humans had to really survive because they were always looking out for things, predators that would eat them, like saber-toothed tigers. So our brains back then were already programmed to constantly look for threats. Now, the negativity bias is still functioning from that limbic brain and from that lizard brain. And the negativity bias is our tendency to give more importance to negative experiences than positive or neutral experiences. We tend to focus on the negative experiences, even when they're so insignificant or inconsequential. And I like to call this negative self-talk that self-critic. And some of you may have already met that self-critic, but all of us have that. There's always that self-critic behind the scenes, or maybe so much more in the forefront of our experience, where there's these voices that are constantly putting us down, telling us we're not good enough, that keeps repeating all of the mistakes that we've made, and tells us that we're not worthy. Oftentimes, our minds are going back to the past or fast forwarding to the future. We ruminate on the past, and when we ruminate, it's when you have this constant repetitive thought about something that is a problem or a situation. Maybe you said something that might have been misconstrued or misunderstood by someone, and then you just keep repeating. Or maybe you made a mistake and you were reprimanded and you keep thinking about that particular situation. So we just keep dwelling on that past. And the past can't be changed. It's long gone. There's also catastrophizing or worrying about the future. So it's assuming that the worst will happen. So it's like when you blow things out of proportion and believing the thoughts that are irrational about yourself and about other people. So maybe somebody looked at you and then you thought, oh, well, why are they looking at me funny? What is it? What have I done wrong? So what's important is also that we're mindful of the way that we're seeing things, how we perceive things. Our senses are the doorway to our perception. When we see things clearly, we realize that we're not our thoughts, that we're not responsible for what we're seeing others do or say, what is external and what's outside of us. What we are responsible for are how we respond to the thoughts. So you can also choose to accept your thoughts and then act on them skillfully. You can choose to acknowledge the thoughts and let them go, not necessarily act. Is thinking a bad thing? Well, not necessarily, but there are different types of thinking. So there's the incessant thinking, which is constant chatter in our minds. It's this incessant thinking that we're mostly attracted to. So what's most problematic? And we'll ruminate or catastrophize, as was mentioned before. And what incessant thinking will usually do is focus on some real or imaginary pain, or recent grudges, or long-term frustrations. Incessant thinking is connected to mental disorders like depression, anxiety, and schizophrenia. The other type of thinking, which is experiential thinking, is what present moment awareness is. It brings our attention to our senses, such as sight, sound, taste, smell, and feeling. And the sixth sense, which is the activity in our mind. So really being in that present moment experience. And then there's the insightful thinking. So it helps us to do long range planning and problem solving. This practice is actually called insight meditation. So, reason being is that when we meditate and we do these practices, we develop our intuition. And then we're able to understand reality so much better. And we're able to come to this present moment experience. So, the importance right now is to bring our minds to the present moment, right here, right now. So, I invite you to please take this moment to practice with me. If you can get comfortable, drop your shoulders down. If you want, you can close your eyes or have them open, but with a gentle gaze downward. Take a few breaths. Notice the state of your mind in this moment. Maybe there's still a lot of activity going on. So take some deep breaths and feel your body breathing. Notice if the breath is felt more in the belly or the chest or the tip of your nose. So when you notice the mind is getting distracted, come back again to breathing, feel your breath, feel your body breathing. So this focusing on the breath practice helps to calm our mind. So as oftentimes as you can, please come back to feeling your breath. So we're not necessarily trying to stop thinking here. We're just bringing our attention back to the breath. Feeling the breath. And as your mind calms down, keep breathing. And notice if you have any thoughts that come to mind. Pay attention to these thoughts. Allow them to be there. And accept them without judgment. What kind of thoughts are there? And let them be. Thoughts are not bad or good, positive or negative. They're just what they are. It's simply the thought that you're having at this particular moment. Notice the thoughts arise. Stay for a moment, or maybe for a while, and then watch it pass. Notice how it affects your body. Notice any physical sensations arising with any particular thought that's present. Notice if there are any emotions arising for you. Good. And take another deep breath here. When you're ready, you can gently come back again. If your eyes are closed, you can open them. So when we bring our mind to the present moment, it is the practice of being aware. So what we just did there is we allowed our breath to calm our bodies, to calm our minds, so that we can slow down the thought process just a little, enough to notice what thoughts are there. So imagine, remember, there's like 48 thoughts coming and going in our minds. And so if you were to sit silently and still for just a minute, how can you catch those 48 thoughts? So it's good to calm the mind with a breath. And then as you notice the mind slowing down a little bit, then you can pay attention to the thoughts. And we bring a quality of curiosity, openness, and being non-judgmental about that. Notice if the self-critic is present. Notice if you're judging your thoughts or your experience as good or bad, or if they're positive or negative. What we want to do is just to let things be just as they are, not trying to change anything. And this is how it helps us to have a deeper understanding of how our minds are working. Some of the practices that would be best for us to really understand and see clearly into how our minds are working is to simply observe the thoughts. Don't engage in the thoughts, just notice them and then let them go. This can be done when you're meditating formally, and this can also be done in informal practices, like while you notice that there's something that's triggering you, simply observe what kind of thoughts are there. You don't have to act on them. So in formal and informal practices, you can label your thoughts. So, it's trying to change your habitual patterns by labeling your thoughts. Like, so if the thought is, bringing up some sadness, oh, that's a sad thought. Or how do we label? So here we go. There are ways that we can label it by saying skillful thought or unskillful thought. Not getting too caught up in the story of that thought, but just simply label whether it's constructive or not. So it's developing that discernment and knowing, okay, well, this is a skillful thought and this is really good for me. And then this is not skillful at all. And it's kind of like, using a strainer and keeping the skillful ones and allowing yourself to let go of the ones that are not necessarily beneficial for you. You can label your thoughts also by classifying them according to their function. So you can say there's the judging mind, or there's a judgment, or you can say I'm planning or worrying, or there's fear, or I'm remembering. And then as you label them, just simply let them go. You will notice that the more that you bring attention or awareness to these thoughts and label them, they simply fade away. You can also bring your awareness to physical sensations. You may notice that whenever you're thinking, there is a particular response or a reaction of the body according to what you're thinking. So maybe there's a worry and you can feel your stomach tighten up. So noticing that too, that's really important, to be more embodied and to notice how these thoughts are affecting your body, your physical body, because we also want to stay healthy. And if we keep having stressful thoughts or unskillful thoughts, then that's going to have a negative effect on our health. And once you have a better understanding of what this practice is and how to make your mindfulness practice be the master rather than your mind controlling you, you can control your mind now. You can redirect your thoughts to something more skillful and worthy of your attention. So it's important that you have a consistent practice. When you practice more, then there is a way that you can be not attached to the thoughts or the feelings or the pain that you might be experiencing. It's no longer you. You are not going to be dictated by the thoughts. You can just simply watch them come and go. And here's another informal practice that I would love for you to try out. It's the acronym THINK. So before you do anything that might cause harm to yourself or cause harm to others that involves having a difficult conversation with people, please review this acronym. So before you speak, think and notice if it's true or is it simply your viewpoint? Is it something that you are imagining, or is it really something that you investigated and know to be real and true? Is it helpful? Is it something that is going to be constructive for yourself and for other people? Is it inspiring? Will it motivate you? Will it motivate others to be better? Is it necessary? So we've seen this word over the past couple of years, essential, right? Is it necessary? Do you really need to do something or to think something or to say something? And lastly, is it kind? So one of the ways that we can best discern whether or not it's skillful, if it's thinking, speaking, or acting, is it causing harm to myself? Is it causing harm to the people that I love? Or is it causing harm to anybody, including all beings, including non-human beings? Might be to some four-legged friends or perhaps even some plants, the trees. Is it kind? Is it the path to the least harm? So Haruki Murakami said, the thoughts that occur to me while I'm running are like clouds in the sky. Clouds of all different sizes. They come and they go while the sky remains the same sky as always. The clouds are mere guests in the sky that pass away and vanish, leaving behind the sky.